You may be wondering, what is Star Wars Legends? To answer that, we need to go back to the beginning. The Star Wars brand all started, of course, with the release of the film Star Wars back in 1977. The movie was a smash hit and blew the socks off everyone that saw it. It was followed up by two more highly successful films, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Star Wars was not simply a successful movie trilogy, however. It was an entire brand. There were Star Wars toys, lunchboxes, shirts, video games, and even books. There were novels that told the same stories of the films, but there were also novels that told new stories taking place in the Star Wars galaxy. These new stories are the beginning of what was known as the Expanded Universe. The first novel, called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, was actually published just a year after the original film, long before the release of Empire Strikes Back. It was actually written with the intention of being filmed as a low-budget sequel to Star Wars in case it was not a hit, but of course it was a hit, so this novel was soon ignored and contradicted when Empire came out. The next novels to be released were 3 Han Solo adventures and 3 Lando Calrissian adventures. These came out amongst the release of Empire and Jedi. These were all one-off stories that took place before the events of the films. It was after this that things got much more vacant for the series. The merchandise train never stopped, but there were no more new stories being told in the galaxy. This all changed when Heir to the Empire was released in 1991. This novel told the story of what happened to Luke, Leia, Han, and the other characters we loved after the films. It was more than just a one-off adventure. It truly played out like the sequel stories we never got. The novel was also very successful, managing to become a bestseller. Heir of the Jedi was followed by 2 sequels, which both became bestsellers as well. Star Wars was back, and after this it would never go away. Novels continued to be written, taking place after, before, and between the movies. When you consider the adult novels, young adult novels, and junior novels, over 100 books were published before the first prequel film, The Phantom Menace, came out. Star Wars had an extensive storyline that had grown way beyond those first 3 films. It was not just novels either, even if those made up the primary storyline. The story was fleshed out further in animated TV series, video games, comics, and even live-action spin-off films. By 2012, there were hundreds of stories told in the Star Wars galaxy, with no signs of slowing down. There were stories about the galaxy 1,000 years before the films, all the way to 100 years after. But then, all of a sudden, to the shock of everyone, Disney announced that they had just purchased the rights to Star Wars from George Lucas. Soon afterwards, they announced that they were wiping the slate clean of all of these stories, and only keeping the 7 films and 1 of the animated series in their new storyline. You see, they had intentions to make their own follow-up to Return of the Jedi, and in order to tell that story, they had to wipe everything else that came before. This, of course, caused a lot of longtime fans to be angry, as they invested so much time into this galaxy, and it was now gone. It does make sense, however. Disney did not purchase the brand to adhere to a bunch of novels and games. They bought it to make new content. When this was announced, they stated that this previous expanded universe would still be published, but they would be released under a new brand called Star Wars Legends. All new Star Wars content would now be the proper storyline, referred to as canon, while everything from before would mostly be ignored. Many fans are not satisfied with how the new expanded universe is playing out, and while I do not personally agree with that point of view, I do believe that the Legend stories could be precisely what these fans should explore, which is precisely why I made this channel. Anyway, there is a very brief overview of exactly what Star Wars Legends is, and if you'd like to learn more, you can check out my upcoming videos.